Someone stole the key to the cloud maze while we were sleeping at the inn. We don't stand a chance of getting to the bird statue without going through the cloud maze. We have to get the key back.
I can't believe that the villagers are accusing us of stealing the key. I mean, we need to get to the bird statue, but not badly enough to steal for it. What kind of people do they think we are? Sheesh. Anyway, we'd better find the real thief.
The most direct means of proving our innocence is no doubt to catch the real thief. However, to find the thief, we need to examine the crime scene, and that will be a challenge. Just for the record, I'm frightening myself because I'm getting so good at breaking out of confinement. Oh, I hope I'm not destined to become a felon.
We got into the room where the key was stolen and found a clue. It was a footprint by the fireplace. Our resident sleuth Fu deduced the thief must have come through the chimney and took off their shoes before entering the room. When we climbed up the chimney, we found Ferio's flute on the roof.
Since I arrived in Sephiroth, I've experienced many firsts, and today was no different. We climbed up a chimney today. Even though it was pretty messy, it paid off big. We found a clue! But I wonder if Ferio really is the thief. I find that hard to believe.
I'm still in shock. Why was Ferio's flute on the rooftop? Was he really the thief who climbed down the chimney? I don't want to believe it, but there is no choice but to get up the courage to ask Ferio about it.
Rafarga told us that we should wait in front of the cloud maze for the thief to appear. While we were waiting, Ferio appeared and used the key to get into the maze. I'm shocked. Is Ferio really the thief? I hope not.
It felt like we were in some kind of TV show when we were waiting to catch the thief at the Maze of Clouds. But now, it seems like some kind of nightmare. I feel so bad for Fu. Why did Ferio have to do something like this?
There simply must be a rational explanation for Ferio's behavior beyond the obvious one. I simply cannot believe that Ferio is a common thief. Perhaps, if I catch up to him, I can get his side of the matter.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Magic Knight Rayearth. We finally made it into the Maze of Clouds, or as the save data likes to say, Heaven's Labyrinth. Not entirely sure why there's the two names, but I believe it's just a translation issue. But we finally are able to get in here because Ferio opened the door, because he presumably is the one who stole the key from the mayor of Rayearth. So we gotta figure out what's going on, because he and a strange robe woman, big huge finger quotes, went in here and is pretty much on their way to the Protector. Or the goddess statue, I guess, of, well, that protects the Sky Garden. However, we're gonna have a tough time, because mainly this dungeon consists of floating platforms. A whole lot of them. So there's a pretty good chance that your first time, second time around, you're gonna be falling into the sky a whole lot. But to me, I don't mind that much, because this dungeon is one of my favorites, to be honest. I think it's just because of how cool it looks. Exploding windmills, I guess. I didn't mean to run into it all of a sudden. But it's that, the look of it, the presumed background mythology that the game kinda makes, that just gets my mind going. And it's like, I like that a whole lot. And, of course, the music. I love this track, it's one of my favorites. Just because it's just so high-spirited. The one weird thing about this dungeon is that enemies are kind of, sparse. There's these enemies here, And it's kind of a good thing that there's not a lot of enemies, to be honest, because, well, they'll just make getting across platforms just all that hard, especially when you get hit by them. There is a tremendous knockback that they give, so the less issues, the better. There's also these flying guys around here. Not particularly enemies in the clearest sense, just don't get in the way of their flight pattern, pretty much. Now, I want to get a running start. Come on, go! There we go, because there is chest. There is one singular chest. There are chests in this dungeon that we must get, because there's rainbow amulets to collect. And we're going to be taking, actually, advantage of those flying enemies in the particular area, because, well, they're pretty much, like, non-hostile. They're just flying around. Not really much of a threat to you. Alright. Some of these platforms we also have to activate by hitting the various switches around here. Here we go. And, well, if your platforming isn't up to snuff, it's probably going to be by the end of this dungeon. Now you kind of wonder, it's like, there is so much open space with each of these rooms that you kind of wonder, it's like, what's going on in the other parts? And it kind of feels a little bit linear in that sense. But I'll point out why in a little bit, because we're going to be getting an ability in this dungeon that's pretty much just going to break the whole idea of this dungeon. Now, up here is a completely different side path. It's a little bit, well, observation-related, because there's one windmill here that isn't turning. Let's get it turning with Fu's Gale ability. All three are turning, which means that that apparently sinks down into the ground. And on the other side here, we get a magic jewel. Now, at this point, this magic jewel I want to give to Fu. Specifically because she has 11 MP, I believe? And I want to make sure that she has 12. There's a really good reason for this, and it's going to come up a little bit later. Now, these enemies I find weird. They hold eggs, and out of the eggs comes the bull-headed enemies, the ones that throw weapons. And I find them just odd, because they don't feel kind of great in my head. Especially when they either they drop them or they don't, and they run away. The weird thing about this side path, too, is that you do have to actually use the Gale again in order to get through, so it's not much that you're able to actually just top off Fu's MP with the magic jewel. But you're going to be using it again. Yeah, these guys. I just don't like them all that much. These ones throw boomerangs. Now, another thing about this dungeon is that we're going to be wanting to get up to 700 gems. These enemies here are going to be helpful because most of the time they do drop gems. Usually just ones, though. How do I not back that direction? You can just kind of get them sometimes. And there's going to be a specific spot that we're going to be doing that as well. So I don't want to wait very long because... And I didn't notice that actually opened up behind us. This room is weird. Let's just say that. It has these pink birds that are here. Only room that they're in. And depending on how you are, they kind of can be an annoyance, especially that they're really resilient. They also pack a punch, which is why they drop large health pickups. We're all going to be taking good advantage of that. We can't get that one, of course. Why am I not surprised? But killing off those birds also lets down the supposed gates, I suppose. The earthen gates. and we're able to continue on. These interiors, though, are kind of interesting to me because, like, the towers, I suppose they are supposed to be. I kind of wish they had a little bit more to them. To be honest, I wish this whole thing had a little bit more to them. Now we see an arrow. Let's shimmy sham, and I'm not good at timing. It's telling us to go down. There is no way we're able to get down to wherever that is supposed to be directing us to. So we have to take it a little bit of a detour. Collect more gems on the way. Ooh, jerk. Yeah, we're supposed to be getting to where those flying enemies are circling around. How can we possibly get down there, though? And I don't know what it is with this enemy, but every time I'm playing this part, he always gets stuck and clips into behind the chest here. You can still pick up what he drops, but I don't know why he decides to go over there and hide. Let's use that health potion. Yeah. Alright. I think we're all good. Yeah, okay. See, they're just kind of cruising. Now we're on to the... Actually, we've been in this room before. This dungeon has a weird way of kind of looping on itself, but because the rooms are so large, you kind of don't see it all that well. Because this room is the same one that we entered from the left side, because on this area we have 2 switches pressed, and a mirror in the middle. Seeing as we're kind of in the sky, you think this mirror would be for Fu? Totally. So that means Fu gets her final spell. Protective Wind. Protective Wind is kind of a contact-sensitive spell. Its main positive thing, other than being a weird ball that's kind of not situated, like, centered correctly in the portrait. That's weird. Magical floating spheres, though, is its description. And we're going to be using it. If you cooperate with magic, it'll help you. Don't be angry at magic, but Protective Wind allows us to float in the air for, I think, about 10 seconds. But there's a bunch of drawbacks to it. It takes a lot of magic. It takes 6 MP in order to use it, which is why I wanted to get Fu up to 12. Because now I have enough to use it again for what it's going to be necessary for. The problem is with it, once it's activated, you cannot run, you cannot attack, you cannot use spells. You are completely, pretty much immobilized, in the sense of being able to do any action other than walking. So it's pretty much just used for getting across really large gaps. And this is also what I meant by, why would I switch to Ikaru? I want to make use of her, that's all I want to do. But this is what I meant by being able to, like, kind of break how this dungeon is supposed to be run. Because if you're able to get a lot of magic back quickly, or just make use of your potions, then you're able to get to parts of the dungeon in non-sequential order. Now, here is the area that I want to actually get up the next 50 gems in order to make sure I have 700, because this is where you're easily able to just kill as many of these as you want. And these aerial flying enemies do drop pretty much everything if you have the good timing in order to kill them. They do drop gems, 1 and 10s, And while I'm doing this, I'm also going to talk about the Super Nintendo version, because now that we're at the Wind Temple, we can now do the Wind Dungeon in that game. Which is 2 parts, actually. It's getting up the Mountain of No Return, which I mentioned when we were looking at Ascot and Caldina, which is pretty much just an ascent up a mountain, nothing really special about that. Except at the top it's a little bit interesting, because once you get up top, the way it connects to the next part of the dungeon is a little bit weird. You kind of get blown away Castlevania 2 style by a tornado, and you get taken away to the Maze of Wind on the floating continent. It's the only instance of the floating continent in that game. The other pro is that while you're doing this section of the game, you still have Ascot with you, which makes going through this dungeon a little bit easier. Because mostly what you're going to be doing is leveling up and taking down enemies. Now, the Maze of Wind is, well, another specific kind of dungeon. It's a teleporter maze. In order to get to where you need to go, you're pretty much just going to be making use of the teleporters. Some teleporters take you to chests, mainly, and then you'll pretty much just stumble across the right path that is going to take you up to the north and into the Wind Temple. And we're going to be taking a look at the Wind Temple, well, at the end of this video. There we go. Now we have 700 gems. We're good for gems for the rest of the game. So let's continue on. We have a branching path here, and at the end of each of these paths is going to be treasure of some sort. And also a surprise enemy who is not paying attention. But up here is just a short little area that contains a yellow rainbow amulet. Now, one thing that is special about this particular rainbow amulet is that not only is it that, but it's our 8th one. I don't know if I specifically mentioned this, but I will now. There are only 8 of each color, which means that we have all of the yellow rainbow amulets. We're coming really close to actually getting them all. Now, up here, there's another egg. If you get them really quickly, they do explode, but you can't kill the enemies that produce them, which is weird. But now we have a purple rainbow amulet, which I believe now gives us 6 sets. So now we can actually go back to the Rainbow Junction shop and get some nice, cool things. We'll be doing that momentarily. I think, well, soon enough anyways. And finally, we have this path, which not only continues into the dungeon, but also brings across a little bit of a challenge. This little area here. There's a sign here. Tread not on the beauty below. It seems pretty self-explanatory. Who put up this sign, I have no idea. But pretty much what it means is that you don't want to step on the flowers. Which is easy because we have a jump button. Because on the other side, we have a heart jewel. Now I think, because this is the Wind Temple dungeon, it probably would be just fair to give both of them the food. Now, what happens if you do step on the flowers? Well, they do get stepped on, but the spikes apparently are produced from the ground. I don't know how that connects to one another, but yeah, if you do that, then you're not able to get the heart jewel. But that's okay, because you can just kind of exit and re-enter the screen and try again. So it's not like you're losing precious time or whatever. It's not permanently blocked off to you. But other than that, I think that's all the treasures that we're getting to. As you can see, we're also looping across where we began in this dungeon. So everything is just coming up all together. We have that broken windmill back there, but also we're on the other side of the rubble where that magic jewel was. And now we can head up the staircases into the center, past everything, And there's a healing fountain here, which means that we are close to the boss fight for this dungeon. Clef has nothing to say. Excellent. We're good to go, I suppose. What's going to be waiting for us? And hopefully Ferio's there too. Alright. I'm not even gonna talk to this robed woman. Scrote? I'm gonna have to look that up. Hands up right now if you don't know who the woman in the robes is, because I think it's pretty obvious.
She's right. You are a warrior without honor.
Fair enough, but I still demand your Escudo weapons in exchange for this filthy waif.
You win.
Huh, that's more like it.
I don't like your manner, witch.
Who are you?
There's honor only in a fair fight.
That's it! You're under mind control from the gods!
Remarga, you saved us!
Pick up your weapons. Time to die.
Well, shoot. One thing I kind of don't get, though, is why Alcyone would want the girl's weapons. It's not like she could actually use them. Then again, it's weird that she is actually able to hold them at all. Because I thought that was kind of the case with the Escudo weapons, is that they're only able to be used by the person who the Escudo accepts. But if she's able to keep them away from the girls, then, well, her plan kind of succeeds.
Hikaru! What's wrong with my head?
Refarga? Refarga! Hikaru! Get away from the edge!
Bye-bye, Refarga.
No, really, it was! Now we're paying attention to you. one thing I can say about Alcyone, she is a woman of many tricks. I like that she just offhand mentions that the machine is pretty much right behind her. Because if she didn't mention anything, you probably wouldn't know until the scene actually happened. You sick psychotic! That's just a good jab. I like it. Well, we certainly didn't... We didn't hear him smash into a mountain, but then again, I don't know how exactly high up we are. Rayearth is tough. I'm sure he'll be fine. And that's a weird line. How perfectly delicious. So it's time for the boss fight, which is, who expected this to happen? So, this boss, I don't really know what specifically this name is. Other than, like, most sources I've seen name it as Alcyone's bird. That is it. So, yeah, this boss just kind of comes out of nowhere and has very little context. This boss isn't even really all that bad. Only has a couple of attacks. Charging... He charges you at regular speed. Other than that, he kind of just goes off on his own. Only attacks from the diagonal directions, so northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. But then sometimes when the bird is flying over top of you, you will drop feathers. Don't run into the feathers because you will be hit by them. You can get hurt. The other thing that the bird is able to do is blow you off of the battlefield and just kind of make you fly off into the distance. You're able to counter that attack just by running in the opposite direction of what he's blowing. Other than that, it's a pretty pattern-specific fight. Except, sometimes you're really not able to be sure what it's going to use until it actually does it. So just be sure, like, the second it touches the ground, you are in a position in order to actually hit it. Because it doesn't stay on the ground for too long. The weird thing about the bird is that I find that its feathers that it leaves on the battlefield, I kind of like the idea behind that attack because it does limit your ability to move around the... Fumi! It limits your ability to maneuver around the field. The problem is I never find that the bird does it enough times in order to actually, for it to be, well, difficult. Once you get it down to critical health, Alcyone will just kind of all of a sudden swoop in, and the bird will be relatively invisible to you until it lands onto the ground. At that point, it will just flicker at you. It's actually not that much of a threat, to be honest. I never find that I'm losing track of it at all, so it's not all that bad. Except for blowing away! The only other question I really have is, how the heck did we get onto this field at all? Did the bird blow us onto it? I guess so, though. Because all of a sudden we're back at the platform with the machine on it. Aw, poor Alcyone. At this rate, it'll probably be the last thing you do. It's kind of a weird thing about this whole scene, this entire scene from the beginning, is that the girls only address one character at a time. I guess it kind of makes it simple to figure out who the girls are addressing, but a little bit weird. Anyway, back to the task at hand. We are at the end of the Maze of Clouds. And right behind us is, well, the Protector statue. Yeah, Ferio is pretty much innocent in the entire ordeal since we got onto area. Now, it's weird. Do you know who is addressing us right now? Because at first when I was thinking of this, I thought it was the machine addressing you, but it actually was Clef. Let's get to it, because, well, here's the thing I kind of feel that's weird about, well, Magic Knight Rayearth as a whole, because I feel that Windam here, the wind machine, is kind of the one that's kind of put onto the side a lot, because there's no build-up to him. You just kind of do it. This game and the show kind of share that in a little bit. The Super Nintendo version, not so much, because there is build-up, you go into the temple, there's the whole ordeal there. This one, you kind of go, hey, I'm the wind machine. Go into Fu. But we've done it. Say hello to Windam.
Curse the fortitude of Rafarga. His will was much stronger than we had anticipated. How do you wish to address this situation, dear Lord?
Equip your armor and go, Innova. I pray you do not fail.
I shall do exactly as you desire, my liege.
Two machines down, one to go. Yeah, Windam's a little bit weird too, because you barely saw the fact that there was a bird in terms of the FMV. Also, the scale of this whole little area, as Ferio kind of runs off, is a little bit weird. At least we get another one in order to actually get off this rock. Which leaves us in a little bit of predicament. Two left, or two down, one to go. Where's the last machine? Rafarga is, well, we're not going to consider him dead yet. He's MIA. And he's certainly not completely brainwashed by Zagat. So I guess the next best thing to do is, on top of finding the last machine, we need to go after and find Rafarga. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. On top of that, we're going to be taking care of a few other things. But hopefully we'll find Rafarga soon enough. And fall off the cliff. Good. Let's get on top of that wonderful flying car and see what's going to happen. And there's our nice crest for Windam. Now I don't know why we need something from, well, the Maze of Clouds in order to get down. We have Makona. It can make a car. Well, while we do that, let's head over to the Super Nintendo version and finish up there, in terms of the Wind Temple. Now, we have seen a little bit of the Wind Temple when we were finishing off with Caldina. But let's actually get into entering the temple itself. If you remember from back in the Water Temple, this is pretty much going to be happening again, except Fu is going to be stepping forward and then disappearing into the temple, where it was Umi with the Water Temple. In terms of this whole scene, I think I did mention back then that this was pretty much like like, action for action for the show. The only difference is that, well, Ascot's here, and this is where Ascot is going to part ways. So say bye-bye to Ascot, we'll meet him at the old lady's house. After fighting Caldina with Hikaru and Umi, we catch up to Fu, who is right at the altar. And again, I have to say, with the sprite work for the statues, and also for Windam himself, looks pretty great. In addition, the music is great. However, it wouldn't be a temple without a confrontation of some sort. You see, during Caldina's, or Umi and Fu's fight with Caldina, something happened. And that something is that Caldina kind of took control of the two girls. So Fu is now getting double-teamed. The other thing about Caldina that she points out here is that pretty much she's just working for money. She's a mercenary, pretty much, for the evil team. That's why you're able to buy her out at the end. However, this gets into a really interesting boss fight, where it's Fu against Hikaru and Umi. Now this fight is pretty cool. I wish it was a little bit better, but that's just because of the AI controlling Hikaru and Umi is not that great. And by not that great, I'm meaning I wish they used more attacks, because they have the regular attacks like so, but they only have, I think, the basic spells that start off at the beginning of the game. Like, for instance, you have Water Dragon there, and then I believe Hikaru, if she would ever use it, she also has Fire Arrow. Now, what I wanted to do there was actually use Doomwind, which is a paralyzing spell. Problem is that I only kind of remember to use it when it's boss battles, and it never works during boss battles. So I just kind of go back to using basic attack wind magic, which just kind of knocks them dead. Also, with being enemies, they get a lot more HP. So there's one benefit for being evil, I suppose. However, why am I actually, well, killing... Yeah, I just killed Hikaru. Why am I doing this? This seems like the bad idea. The problem is that you kind of feel like it's the right idea? Except, clearly it isn't. You do not seem to understand the strength of your will. The fact that you can destroy each other whenever you want. Yeah, so this is how you game over. You don't kill each other. You game over, and then you have to start over from when you last saved. Which, it's gonna be a little while ago from when you last saved. So pretty much you just have to die. Which takes a long time because they love using physical attacks, when they really would be able to peg you down a lot quicker if they would just use their magic. Come on. This is the problem with these kind of context fights where you have to die. Is that sometimes the AI just doesn't want you to, so you're stuck forever. And when that happens, you can actually continue on. Hey, dead girl, show me your strength. And then she uses Doomwind in terms of a story-related thing, which is kind of cool. So still same kind of idea, where she's paralyzing the two. Except Caldina goes and decides to dance again. Dance, everybody! So Caldina's plan is kind of alright, to be honest. It does get the job done. Have the three girls fight against each other until pretty much they're all dead. However, Fu's smarter than that. It's pretty much like confusion. Hit yourself and you'll be good to go. And then we get into a one-on-one fight with Caldina. This fight is pretty much the same as when Hikaru and Umi were fighting Caldina, except now it's just Fu. And to be honest, it feels a little bit easier than it did the first time around, because Caldina doesn't change up her strategy at all. It's still the same attacks that she has. But I don't know, it feels just a little bit quicker for me. Pretty much just unload with wind magic and then you're gonna take her down easily. So then it comes with all the resolution of Caldina, and then Windam decides to chime up because he's supposed to be important. Kind of remembers that. And then we get him as our second machine. To use eventually. And there you have it. So I'll see you next time, everyone, as we head out of the Sky Garden into new lands. See you next time, everyone.